Boxers, in today's video, I'm going to show you how to find your boxing stance in 4 simple steps. Okay, so this is a good way for a coach or myself or anybody to explain how to get in a good stance without even seeing you. All right, even if you were in front of me, to a beginner, this is a great way to explain it because, again, it can get a little tricky and overwhelming where how your feet this way, how far, boom, which foot first, those sort of things, right? So we got to make sure that we can simplify this and make it as easy as possible. So first thing, whether you have a cross or you can imagine one, all right, we're going to start off being with our feet square. Remember, your general rule of thumb is whatever foot goes forward, it means the opposite hand is dominant. So I'm a natural orthodox, which means I'm right hand dominant. If you're a natural southpaw, it means you're left hand dominant. And sometimes people are like, well, I'm ambidextrous. The example or the analogy I like to use is which hand do you throw a ball with? Because whatever hand you throw a ball with is ultimately the same hand you're going to throw a cross with, right? So if I give you a ball, you're going to chunk a football 50 yards. Whatever hand you're going to do that with, that's the stance that you should learn in. General rule of thumb anyway, okay? So again, first things first, I'm going to start off with my feet square, my toes lined up, okay? Nice and relaxed. The next thing I'm going to do is my first steps, the opposite hand that's dominant. So I'm right hand dominant, so I'm going to take a natural step with my left foot, okay? And think about this like a walking stride step. So walking stride, that way you don't just get too short or you don't get too wide, all right? So just like a walking stride step, okay? So just keeping your toes forward for now. So that's the first thing that you're going to do. The second thing you're going to do is you're going to turn your toes inward towards your belly button. So, away from your belly button. So from here, okay, turning my toes away from my belly button. That's step number 2. Step number 3, I'm going to bend my legs right here, okay? Put some weight on them. My natural rule of thumb for this as well is 60% of your weight on your back leg, 40% on your front leg. So it's naturally going to put you like this. This is what 50-50 looks like. And this is what 60-40 looks like with your front leg heavy. Okay, if you come from a wrestling background, oftentimes you're going to be in this stance where you're 60 front leg, 60%, and 40 rear leg, but we want to make sure that it's 60 back leg, 40 front leg, okay? So that's step 3 right there. And then step 4, okay, is going to bring our hands up straight from where they're at. So they're here in this position. This hand's going to come up here, and this hand's going to come up here, and now I'm in the boxing stance. And from this stance, I can throw all my punches. I can roll. And when I move, I want to make sure I stay in that stance. Okay, so we're going to go over those 4 steps again. So feet square. So that's step 0. Step 1. Turn. 2. Put weight on your legs. 3. Put your hands straight up from where they're at. Onto your face and in front of your face. Onto your face, in front of your face. 4. You can even put both on your face as well. Or you can keep this one slightly in front. We can talk about that more in a different video, okay? So last time, feet square. Okay, I'm going to do southpaw, change it up. So 1, 2, put weight on my legs. 3, 4, bring my hands up. Okay, from here again, I can punch, do all the things that I need to do while keeping a good stance. How to move in this same exact boxing stance is to make sure that we don't cross our feet. And the way we do that is by following the rule of thumb that your first step is in the direction of which you're going, okay? So I'm going to use my 4 steps to find my stance. Going back to orthodox, okay? This is the distance I want to keep throughout every step I take, every movement, every pair of steps. Because if I go move forward, my first step's in the direction that I'm going, so my first step will be forward. If I move to the left, it's going to be with my forward foot. If I move backward, it's going to be with my back foot. If I move right, it's going to be with my right foot, okay? We're going to practice moving forward real quick, okay? Landing on your toes. I don't want to see you land like this, okay? Because this is an awkward position. You can't really do nothing from here. We're going to land on our toes and then forward. You can also land flat-footed, okay? But that also kind of takes a little bit of a skill to build because naturally, when you try to land flat-footed as a novice boxer, you kind of end up landing on your heel. So that's why I encourage landing on your toes, okay? To work on that, on being light-footed and staying off your heel. So we're going to keep symmetry. This is how much distance I have between my foot after a pair of steps. That's the same distance. After a pair of steps, it's the same distance. If I'm going this way, boom, 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 and I'm right back to where I started. Just completed a little square right there, right? So again, the idea is your first steps in the direction in which you're going, and that prevents you from crossing your feet. Because this is what a bad example looks like, what we don't want to do. If I'm moving to my left and I take a right step first, for a split second, I'm going to be right here. Again, nothing can happen from this position. In no sport are you going to be athletic in this position. All right, we got to make sure that we're crossing. That's what we're going to be like if we go backwards. Here, for a split second, before we finally straighten out. We don't want to be there. We don't want to be there. We want to make sure we're here, our feet never cross. Here, our feet never cross. Here, our feet never cross. All right? So working on these fundamentals will go a long, long way for your boxing stance. And the boxing stance is honestly one of the most awkward things to learn if you haven't come from a fight background like wrestling, kickboxing, Muay Thai, where you already have a stance, okay? So keeping these rules and thumbs in mind, again, your dominant hand dictates which stance you're in. I'm right hand dominant, so I'm going to step with my left, turn, put weight on my leg. And the reason being, we never want to be in our boxing stance with our legs locked out. Again, in no sport is there any benefit really to having your legs locked out. Okay, if you're waiting for a tennis ball, volleyball, you're going to shoot a basketball, football, nothing, soccer. Okay, we want to make sure that we're in that athletic stance, essentially, was what this is. But in this case, it's a boxing stance with 60% of our weight on our back leg, 40 on our front, elbows in tight, hands here. Okay, staying on our toes. And that's just to prevent us to land on our heel. After a little bit, you can learn to work flat-footed. Okay? But again, I encourage you to move on your toes first, working on that symmetry. And you're going to, early on, you might feel clumsy, kind of like a newborn trying to learn to walk, right? That's what the legs are made for, made to walk. But until the brain and the muscles and the legs learn how to make that connection, it's still a little clumsy at first. And the same thing with your boxing stance. And the last thing I want to leave you off with, of why the boxing stance is so important, I use the analogy of the 3 little pigs with our fighters all the time, or the boxers that come in from the ground up. Learning from the ground up is your foundation to your house is the most important, right? A good house that's worth $2 million, if someone came to you, hey, I got a $2 million house, but the foundation needs completely redone. You might consider not buying that house simply because of the troubles the foundation will cause. So in this case, it's the same thing. If you want to develop a good house, boom, 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 you got to have a good stance. You want to have good punches, good head movement, good feet, in and out, sideways, pivoting. It's all going to come from your stance. So the 3 little pigs, the pig that put the most time into their house, into the foundation, into the strength of the house, not necessarily the aesthetics, or not trying to rush through things, got the most benefit out of it. So when the big bad wolf comes in, boom, 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 knocking, your stance isn't just going to be flailing all over the place. You're going to be able to sit down. You'll be able to turn your punches, turn your hips, move in and out. So learn from that. Put more time and effort into this important thing, which is your boxing stance, because everything goes from the ground up, just like the tree. The roots, they got to dig in there firmly. If not, a small wind's going to come by, boom. We got to make sure if it's going to get knocked down, it's by a strong, strong, strong wind and not just a small wind. So, again, focus on the footwork. Focus on making sure your feet don't cross. And remember those 4 easy steps to get your boxing stance, to find your boxing stance. And whether I'm in front of you digitally like I am now or whether I'm in front of you in person, you're going to be ready to rock and roll, okay? So, again, if you have any questions, be sure to like, subscribe, or shoot us a comment in any of the videos on what you would want to see next. All right, my name's Coach Pedro with KO Boxing here in Manhattan, Kansas.